On a rainy night, a Marine and his canine unearthed twin girls. What happened next was life-changing. Jake Thompson's heart thudded uneasily inside his chest as he patrolled the slick streets of Cedar Springs. The storm raging above mirrored the turmoil swirling in his own mind. He had traded gunfire for odd jobs but found no solace. The world felt foreign, alien, as if he were walking in someone else's shoes. Rex, his steadfast canine partner, trotted ahead through the downpour, leading him, as always. But tonight they were not just searching for trouble, they were about to stumble into something far deeper. Then, piercing through the rain, soft cries pierced the air, sending a chill up Jake's spine. He hesitated. Had he heard that right? The cries grew louder, haunting the depths of his memories. Something primal stirred within him. A duty, a fire to protect. Rex perked up, his ears twitching, urging Jake forward. He followed blindly, adrenaline flooding his senses, while shadows of the past gasped in his mind, recalling those helpless faces he'd seen deployed, children caught in the crossfire. Eager and fearful, Jake pushed through an alleyway, heart racing. The air thickened, heavy with the scent of damp earth and despair. There it was, an old, dilapidated shed barely standing. The cries echoed louder now, cutting through the clattering rain. He kicked the door open. Inside, a horrified sight unfolded. Two small forms huddled together, shivering and soaked. "Hey, it's all right," he said, trying to sound calm, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his own fear. Jake reached down, lifting the girls into his arms, their frail bodies warmer than the chill outside. Their wide, innocent eyes stared back at him, as if recognizing the remnants of a soul that once wanted to protect children like them. For a fleeting moment, he felt alive again, like he was reclaiming pieces of himself he thought lost. But as he learned more about the twins, Bella and Emma, the joy of their rescue waned, replaced by an anger welling inside him. Orphans, alone because of unimaginable pain. He felt a surge of righteous fury. Wasn't he supposed to fight for them, for all the kids left behind while he was overseas? Yet as he gathered their motherless history, Jake found himself wrestling with the stark realities of Cedar Springs, the systemic failures that had left them vulnerable. He had fought wars abroad, but the battles here felt no less daunting. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But resentment bubbled up. He was seen as a war hero, a symbol of strength, not someone tangled in unresolved trauma. The townsfolk wrapped in their own struggles barely acknowledged his plight. They'd fought their battles, and Jake, with his military accolades, felt as if he were whispering through a thick fog. Every effort to help the twins surfaced his own anguish, reminding him just how badly he longed for purpose. That maternal instinct, flaring to life, felt threatening. It was a reminder of a family he never had after serving. As Jake stood in the rain, heat rising inside him, yet a shroud of despair pulling it down, a voice echoed in his mind. How could he become their savior when he was still fighting his own demons? Just when he thought he could move forward, a shadowed semblance of truth shattered the fragile progress. He unearthed a thread that bound the twins to a darkness lurking in the heart of Cedar Springs, a web of prejudice that had festered for years. The question burned in his mind. Were they meant to be the collateral damage? Could his desire to protect them justify confronting a community that had failed them? As the storm heaved outside, mirroring the chaos within him, Jake's heart thudded heavy with uncertainty. In this storm, both literal and figurative, would the courage to confront darkness allow him to find redemption for himself and these innocent souls? The answer loomed unformed, shrouded in shadows waiting to reveal itself. Thunder rumbled in the distance, echoing Jake's tumultuous thoughts as he cradled Bella and Emma in his arms, their fragile forms warm against the cold rain. A sharp gust of wind whipped through the alley, carrying with it the bitter taste of despair and igniting a fire in Jake's chest. He had emerged from the chaos of war, only to find himself at the epicenter of another struggle. One that demanded more than bravado. It called for raw vulnerability. As he studied the girls' trembling frames, he was struck by the depth of their needs. Beneath their shivering exteriors lay stories of sorrow that could fill volumes. The instinct to protect surged within him once more, pushing aside fleeting thoughts of his own unresolved trauma. Here was a chance to reclaim his purpose, to wrest power from the darkness that sought to consume both the twins and himself. But holding them did not erase the responsibility flooding his mind. He was not merely a soldier who found lost souls in a war-torn environment. He was a man trying to navigate a home where innocence was shattered by neglect and loss. A weight anchored him as he recognized the systemic barriers that had led to Bella and Emma's suffering. How could he unravel years of prejudice, open wounds that seemed impossible to heal? He stepped back into the rain, Rex looming protectively beside him, alert. They needed immediate shelter, and quick thinking propelled him toward a nearby community center. As they made their way through the drenched streets, Jake couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety, the stares of judgment, the whispers that would follow. Had he truly traded one battlefield for another? Inside the center, the stark fluorescence cast a harsh light over the empty chairs and tables, illuminating the starkness of reality. He laid the girls on a sofa, covered them with a worn blanket, but it did little to quell the storm swirling inside him. His mind raced, torn between the protective instinct surging within and the familiar walls of fear built from his past failures. The center's director, a woman named Martha, emerged. Her face softened when she saw the twins. "Jake, you did an incredible thing tonight," she said, her voice warm, but with an edge of concern tracing her features. "But we need to report this. They need a safe place." A flicker of panic surged through him. Reporting might mean involving authorities, possible foster care. The twins' tremors settled his own butterflies as he envisioned their separated lives. 2 innocent hearts would be broken once more, a recurring nightmare he wished to prevent at all costs. "Can't we just help them directly? Give them a place? With me?" He found himself pleading, desperation creeping into his tone. Martha's gaze turned serious. "You do know the risks involved, Jake. Your life is still—" She hesitated, searching for the right words. "In flux." The unspoken truth hung in the air. Jake was still mending the shards of his identity after leaving the service. He was barely keeping his own life together, let alone restoring innocence for 2 orphaned girls. Yet beneath that apprehension, a buried confidence emerged. Could his experiences shape him into the protector he desperately wanted to be? Or were those life lessons mere echoes of better days? As night crept deeper into Cedar Springs, Jake's resolve strengthened. If the twins were to face this world together, perhaps he could forge a path to healing. Not just for them, but for himself as well. "Just give me time," he asserted, the solemnity grounding him. "I'll find a way." What he didn't know was that the very darkness he sought to confront would soon manifest in a way he never anticipated, presenting a formidable opponent. The truth of his own limits. How much am I willing to lose in order to save them? The question lingered, unwelcome yet undeniable. As the rain pounded against the windows, he wondered if he could rise above his own scars to become the guardian they so desperately needed, or if he would simply drown in the very chaos he sought to fight. The struggle lay ahead, and its outcome would depend on one pivotal choice. Would he be the man they needed him to be? Jake's pulse quickened as he stared at Martha, her expression layered with the gravity of the situation. The air in the room felt dense, pregnant with possibility, and threatening to suffocate him under its weight. He realized then that time was not on his side. The clock was ticking, and the storm outside echoed the maelstrom inside him. "Time," he muttered as if tasting the word. That intangible resource had always slipped through his fingers, much like the fleeting stability he had sought since returning from combat. He needed to act, but fear clawed at him, warning him of possible failures. What if he failed them? What if they were taken away, lost in the bureaucratic tangle of a foster care system he barely understood. "Listen, Jake," Martha said, her voice sharp yet compassionate. "This isn't just about you or me. These girls need more than temporary shelter. They need a safe home and consistent care. The kind you might not be able to provide right now." Her words sliced deep, igniting a familiar chaos within him. He was no longer that soldier who faced enemy fire with unwavering courage. Now he felt bewildered by the vulnerability and fragility of life outside battle. Every captivating victory he once sought was reduced to fleeting moments, and the haunting losses lingered. "And what if I refuse? What if I want more for them?" he blurted out, the walls of his doubt shrinking. A part of him was rising, the soldier who fought for others' lives. Could he convert that bravery into something actionable? Martha held his gaze, challenging him to confront the truth. "Then you need to step up, Jake. This starts with taking responsibility, not just for them, but for yourself. Are you ready?" In that instant, a flicker of understanding sparked deep within him. Perhaps he could reshape his identity. If he could protect and stand for these twins, maybe he could reclaim his own worth. But how? He stood at the edge of a precipice, and behind him lay the remnants of old scars, his failures, losses, and abandonment. Ahead stood the potential for raw, unfiltered growth. "I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted, his voice trembling. "I'm still figuring myself out." "Finding yourself often involves finding others too," Martha replied, her calm steadying him. "Think of the skills you honed in the military: tactical planning, leadership, making split-second decisions under pressure. You may have the tools you need to navigate this." He inhaled sharply, the truth hitting him harder than any bullet. Could he utilize those skills beyond the battlefield? Could he design a strategy not just for combat, but for care and nurturing? "Maybe I can start by investigating their situation, find out what kind of support they actually need," he said, tentative but resolute. The idea took root, expanding in his mind. "I could reach out to organizations that provide support to foster children. I could—" "Jake," Martha interrupted, "this isn't just a mission. We're talking about lives, emotions, and your own well-being. This is as much about healing for you as it is for those girls." She was right, and that truth hit him like a wave. He couldn't undertake this journey with half measures. He needed to be all in, no matter how tumultuous the waters became. He had to confront his own ghosts. "Okay, I'll do it," Jake declared, his tone reflecting a newfound determination. "I will find a way to help them, to protect them. They won't be lost again." The moment hung between them heavy with the promise of what lay ahead, a commitment to the twins, and a reckoning with his own past. But as he looked into Martha's eyes, he felt the gnawing uncertainty return, sharper and colder. What would he unearth about himself in the process of helping Bella and Emma? Just then, a powerful thunderclap echoed outside, cracking his internal resolve. He realized the journey had only just begun, but he had chosen the path. With it came the undeniable truth that he was not just battling external forces. He was poised to confront the very depths of his own fears. And as he gathered his strength, he wondered, what shadows lurked in his past that would soon resurface? Would his resolve hold under such scrutiny, or would he falter when faced with the stark truth of his capabilities? The heavy weight of his decision loomed. Darkness awaited, and so did understanding. With a new mission igniting his spirit, Jake stepped out into the storm that mirrored the turmoil inside him. The rain fell in relentless sheets, each drop a reminder of the responsibilities he had just taken on. The air was thick with moisture, clinging to his skin as he burdened the weight of Martha's words. Determination was taking shape within, fighting against the sluggish forces of self-doubt still lurking in the corners of his mind. Finding support for Bella and Emma would not be a simple task. Images of their small faces haunted his thoughts, compelling him to act, not to retreat into indecision. He turned on his phone, thumbing through contacts with practiced efficiency, yet feeling every ounce of trepidation with each scroll. He hesitated before tapping a number. An old friend who once served alongside him in the military, now working with social services, who might help guide him through the murky waters of the foster care system. "Hey, Jake, long time," Brian answered, his tone bright but with an undercurrent of surprise. "Yeah, been a while," Jake replied, swallowing the lump in his throat. He needed clarity and direction, not pleasantries. "I'm looking for some information on fostering. It's about these twins." Twins? Brian sought to understand the context. Jake filled him in on the situation. The girls who had lost everything, and who needed someone willing to fight for them. As he spoke, the words spilled forth like artillery fire, punctuated by the weight of urgency. Brian listened intently, imparting information about local child services and emotional support services designed for foster children. "Just remember, man, it's going to take more than just some logistics. These kids need more than a roof over their heads. They need a sense of stability, of belonging," Brian cautioned. Jake clenched his jaw and nodded, even though Brian couldn't see him. He felt a strange mixture of appreciation and fear. The walls of his past seemed to shake with each revelation about the challenges that lay ahead. As he gestured towards his car, the rain began to ease, allowing him to focus more clearly on the path. He studied the area. Every corner seemed to hold a shadow of his struggles, both past and present. He drove toward a local community center that offered resources for youth in need. With each passing block, his resolve hardened. He envisioned meeting Bella and Emma, what he'd say when he would stand in front of them. Could he be that figure they needed? Would they feel safe with him? As he approached the center, those thoughts morphed into doubts once more, threatening to paralyze him. Inside, the warmth of the building contrasted sharply with the chill of rain-soaked clothes. A bulletin board covered in colorful flyers for youth programs cluttered his vision as he crossed the threshold. He felt misplaced, but somewhere amid the chaotic colors, a spark of purpose reignited. He approached a receptionist, who greeted him with an inviting smile, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being an imposter. He needed to present himself as a stable figure, yet felt like the pillars of his own life were still under construction. "I'm here to learn more about support for foster kids," he managed, voice steady despite the tremors beneath. Within minutes, he was handed pamphlets and directed to a support group meeting for potential foster caregivers. As he located the meeting room, anxiety rippled through him. The combination of his past and the pressure of his present choices collided, prompting a momentary halt just outside the door. Inside, he was greeted by bright faces, many of whom bore stories of their own, stories of trials, perseverance, and a commitment to something greater than themselves. And then it hit him. These weren't just other adults to his left and right. They were beacons of hope shaping the future of children like Bella and Emma. For the first time since he had undertaken this journey out of sheer desperation, he began to see the possibilities unfolding within himself. But just as he began to settle into the idea of joining them, an unexpected voice called out from within the room, a familiar face that brought with it a wave of unresolved conflict. "Jake? Is that really you?" The voice, tinged with disbelief, belonged to someone he hadn't seen since the war. His heart raced, conflicting emotions crashing over him as he tried to reconcile this moment. The past loomed before him, offering an undeniable reminder of how pain and healing were intertwined. And within that confusion, the questions began to swirl. What would this encounter reveal? How would it challenge his already shaky resolve? The moment stretched into uncertainty as he stepped into the crowded room. Unbeknownst to him, the intertwining of his past and present was about to surface, one that may redefine his understanding of healing, responsibility, and impact. The moment Jake stepped fully into the room, the walls of his past closed in, reminding him of his mistakes, regrets, and unfinished business. He locked eyes with Mark, a fellow soldier who had once been his closest confidant, a brother forged in the crucible of war. Seeing him here, in this vulnerable setting, felt surreal. "Mark," Jake said, his voice a mixture of surprise and caution. Memories spiraled through him. Moments of laughter turned deadly quiet when they lost comrades, unspoken traumas lingering just beneath the surface. "Man, you look different," Mark replied, stepping closer. "What are you doing here?" Uncertainty flooded Jake's thoughts. challenging how he would navigate this encounter without retreating into the safety of silence, a flaw he knew all too well. "I'm trying to help some kids," he managed. The weight of his admission sat heavy, yet freeing. It was a purpose finally expressed, but in the back of his mind, echoes of his latent insecurities whispered that he was not up to this. "Helping kids? That's brave, Jake. I remember the way you always looked out for us," Mark said, his sincerity warm yet heavy with expectation. "How's that going for you?" Jake took a breath, the moment a small opening for healing. "It's a complicated situation. They need someone to keep them safe and—" He paused, searching Mark's expression for encouragement. "I'm still figuring out how to be that person." "Look, man, you've faced worse," Mark said. "You know how to protect people. You just have to apply that same focus here. It's different, but you've got it in you." As they exchanged words, Jake felt layers peel back, revealing old fears long buried beneath the soldier's exterior. This was not about combat or strategy. It was about emotional war fronts, the kind where winning meant vulnerability and connection rather than shields and swords. "You're right," Jake said, feeling a resolute determination build within him. "But I'm not sure how to start. The thought of failing these girls, it terrifies me." "Being scared is part of it," Mark said, crossing his arms, a brotherly gesture that felt grounding. "But it doesn't define your actions. You learned to fight for something. Now learn to fight for them. Go in with an open heart. They'll sense that." Jake nodded, his resolve solidifying. The fire inside flickered fiercely as he understood this was more than a mission. It was his chance to forge a legacy of hope. He felt lighter now, standing in front of Mark, no longer just a soldier, but a man equipped to nurture, bridge his past, and shape a new future. "Speaking of hope," Mark said, breaking through Jake's reverie, "there's a workshop coming up next week. It's about integrating first responders into social services. You should attend. It'll give you tools to manage the stress, plus a community you can rely on." Jake's heart raced at the prospect, seeing utility where he had previously felt isolated. "You're right. I'll go," he pledged, driven by clarity and purpose. Mark clapped him on the shoulder. "Good call. Just remember, don't shy away from asking for help. That's when strength really shows." As their conversation shifted toward lighter subjects and shared experiences, Jake felt months of tension begin to ease. He could be more than what his past defined him to be. He could become someone who could be relied on amidst chaos, a steadfast guide for Bella and Emma. However, lingering doubts gnawed at him. Could he truly be the source of stability those girls desperately needed? Was he ready to confront the demons from his past again, especially if it meant facing his own vulnerabilities? When the meeting shifted focus to introductions, the chair beside him filled with a woman whose own struggles dripped from her expression. She glanced over at Jake, the unspoken story in her eyes drawing him in. There was something about her presence that felt like a catalyst for change in his life. Yet questions loomed. Could another wounded soul lead to further healing, or would it deepen the scars he carried? The room buzzed with potential stories waiting to unfold, but the most pressing question loomed large in Jake's mind. Was he ready to face what lay ahead, both for himself and for the twins? The moment had come to not just navigate the dark waters, but to plunge deeper, equipped with his newfound clarity and courageous heart. What awaited him as he ventured into these uncharted emotional depths? As the meeting began, Jake found himself tuning out the endless discussions swirling around him, his focus drawn inward. The woman beside him, Tanya, had shifted subtly, unconsciously mirroring his tension. He noticed her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater, and it struck him how their silent struggle was united by something intangible, yet profound. He wondered if she was feeling the same weight, the need to step towards vulnerability, despite the fear gripping him. "Hey," he found himself saying, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are you okay?" Tanya turned, her sharp green eyes momentarily startled. "Yeah, just thinking," she replied, a fleeting smile crossing her lips before the weight returned. "There's a lot to take in." Tell me about it, Jake replied, grateful for the connection. A sudden impulse tugged at him. He wanted to break the ice, to peel away the layers of apprehension that shrouded them both. What brings you here? She hesitated, the shadows of her past flickering just behind her eyes. Finally, she said, I've dealt with a lot of loss and trauma myself, in different ways. I want to help kids too, give them something I didn't have. Her voice trembled slightly, but determination sparked beneath the surface. Jake felt an electric shift in their conversation. Her honesty stirred something within him, reminding him of why he was here, why he needed to be here. Maybe this connection with Tanya could be part of his healing process. You know, I think we all have our own battles, even if they look different, he continued, surprising even himself with his openness. As they spoke about their motivations, Jake sensed his own fears softening. He could see reflections of his struggles mirrored in her words. Her losses echoed his own, yet there was something unifying in their pain. They sat there together, two people outside fighting their respective wars, wanting to overcome their burdens for the sake of others. When introductions turned into breakout sessions, Jake felt a surge of anxiety returning. Speaking in front of others had always sent his heartbeat racing, not unlike the feeling of preparing for a mission. He recalled Mark's earlier words, echoing like a lifeline. Learn to fight for them. Stepping into the circle, Jake's voice felt steadier than expected. I'm Jake, he began, and I want to help. He shared a brief glimpse of his journey, his commitment to the girls, and how he believed they could find strength through connection. As he spoke, he caught sight of Tanya nodding beside him, her expression fierce yet supportive. It wasn't just the fear of failure that gripped him now. It was a burgeoning conviction, the belief that together they could create something valuable. Afterward, during a break, Tanya approached him, eyes gleaming with an idea. I have some experience working with young kids in difficult situations. We could brainstorm ways to reach them, maybe even create activities that can bring them joy, she suggested, passion lighting her features. Yeah, I'd like that, Jake replied, impressed by how much their discussion had heightened his resolve. He felt invigorated, seeing possibilities where once he had seen peril. Hours passed, filled with exercises and strategies designed to support their missions. Each session peeled back layers of his past, while exposing a community of like-minded individuals. They were not just soldiers and survivors, they were emerging leaders, roused to reclaim their stories by guiding those younger than them. Yet, as the day waned, doubt crept back in. Could he truly align his experiences with the needs of the twins? What if he stumbled once more, unable to break the cycle of generational trauma? Jake, Tanya's voice broke through his spiral of thought. I think you're more equipped for this than you realize. Just don't overthink it. Her unwavering belief reignited a flicker of hope. As they walked to the parking lot, Jake paused, uncertainty thrumming within him. What if, he began, but Tanya's expression cut him short, a mix of concern and urgency surfacing. There's a workshop next week I think we should both go to. It could give us insight into reaching kids who have been through trauma, she urged, determination anchoring her words. Jake felt the weight of her suggestion hang in the air, a charged moment filled with the potential for change. But with their emotional wounds still fresh, could they truly step forward together? The uncertainty remained. What would this next step hold for them both, and could he truly become the guardian figure those young girls needed? His mind raced with questions, but beneath it lay a burgeoning commitment to examine the depths of his endurance, both for himself and for the girls he wished to help. As they stepped outside into the crisp evening air, the clouds rolled ominously overhead, mirroring the uncertainty swirling inside him. Yet a sense of interdependence rose between them. They were both navigating the bumpy journey of healing. The next chapter of their stories awaited. What would they uncover as they ventured forth together into the unknown? Jake sat in his car, the engine rumbling softly beneath him as rain began to dance on the windshield. He took a deep breath, drawing in the cool air laced with the scent of wet asphalt. The reflections of streetlights blurred under the steady stream of droplets, much like his thoughts, a mix of uncertainty, ambition, and a flickering hope for change. The idea of attending the workshop with Tanya swirled in his mind. Could this be the turning point he had been waiting for? The hum of the highway filled the silence, yet the questions remained loud and clear. Would he truly be able to connect with the girls? What wisdom could he possibly offer when he still wrestled with his own demons? He shifted in his seat, trying to dispel the rising tide of self-doubt. He needed a plan, a strategy to ensure he wouldn't falter. Opening his phone, Jake started drafting notes. What were the girls facing? Trauma? Loss? Sleep disturbances? Almost instinctively, his fingers flew over the screen, listing concrete experiences and emotions that could resonate with them. Each word felt like a lifeline, grounding him in a purpose beyond his own struggles. As the rain intensified, he felt the swell of resolve amidst the chaos, tapping into the motivation that had driven him this far. He recalled the shared moment with Tanya, the truth in her eyes, and realized that authentic connection was not just about shared experiences. It was about empathy and understanding. Suddenly, Jake envisioned ways to create safe spaces for the girls, where they could express their feelings, confront their fears, and understand they weren't alone. He would focus on storytelling, art, and other channels that provided expression. Could he introduce activities that would foster both joy and healing? With every idea, his confidence began to build. But he couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of inadequacy that kept surfacing. One thought in particular seized him. What if the workshop reinforced all the barriers he felt? What if the experienced voices around him overshadowed his own? Clearing his throat, he tapped his fingers over the list of inspirations. This was about overcoming fear, not succumbing to it. Tanya's support echoed in his mind. Just don't overthink it. He would embrace his vulnerability instead of shying away. Through vulnerability lay real strength, the strength to forge connections that could change lives, perhaps including his own. But what if he stumbled in front of his peers? The pressure of real-time vulnerability pressed against his chest like a vice. The rain suddenly lightened, and in the soft glow of taillights, Jake glimpsed a figure standing under an old oak tree. It was Tanya, her silhouette accentuated by the dim light. She was looking directly at him, and their eyes locked in mutual acknowledgement. Jake felt a surge of energy. He wasn't just stepping into a workshop. He was stepping into a pivotal moment, an opportunity to reclaim parts of himself and to redefine what it meant to be a protector. Taking a breath, he turned off the engine, gathering his reflected courage. Heartbeats raced as he opened the car door, the rain now a soothing backdrop to the impending exchange. Tanya approached, a spark of determination in her stride. "So, are you ready to tackle this?" she asked, a playful grin lifting the corners of her mouth despite the solemn undertones of their conversation. "More ready than I was a few minutes ago," Jake admitted, feeling the swell of camaraderie re-inflate his sails. The two of them stepped into the rain, side by side, navigating the uncertainty together. As they approached the workshop, the weight of their shared pasts became a source of strength. What awaited them beyond those doors would test everything they had prepared for. But Jake could already sense a deeper connection unfolding, one that would challenge them, but also cradle them in the journey of healing. Little did he know as they crossed the threshold, that the foundation of their mission would soon be tested in ways they never imagined. What lingering fears would they need to confront? Would they unearth unexpected truths about themselves that could bridge the gaps between their past and their future? The low hum of voices welcomed Jake and Tanya as they crossed into the workshop, an informal yet charged atmosphere enveloping them. The room was filled with an eclectic mix of participants, some familiar faces he recognized, others more enigmatic and scattered. Each echoing laugh and quiet whisper thrummed with a sense of purpose that both intimidated and intrigued him. He scanned the room, feeling the slightly sticky floor beneath his feet, a stark contrast to the smooth leather of his car seat. The air was still, alive with possibility, but his internal tide surged with apprehension. Was he truly ready for what lay ahead? This was not just about guiding others. This was about revealing parts of himself he had long buried, and the thought loomed like an unwelcome specter. "Okay, everyone, settle down." Tanya's voice broke through the chatter, bright and commanding. She stepped forward, her confident demeanor igniting a spark of hope in Jake. He stayed near the back of the group, listening, absorbing her ease as she introduced the theme of the workshop, connection through storytelling. As he watched her facilitate the opening activities, his heart raced. Could he match her energy? He struggled to form a coherent response when asked to participate. Each question felt weighted, looming over him like a gargantuan wall. "What story do you want to share with the girls?" rings through his mind like a bell tolling, announcing the weighty realization of his role. He could backpedal now or step forward. The choice settled in the pit of his stomach. He breathed out the unease weighing him down, letting it dissipate into the atmosphere. Before he knew it, he found himself taking tentative steps toward the center, engaging in a simple icebreaker activity, despite the nagging uncertainty. Surrounded by pairs of eager eyes watching him, the fear of failure gripped him tightly. Tanya's signal to share compelled him to push through the seemingly insurmountable wall. "I battled with feeling inadequate too," he shared, his voice gaining strength as recognition dawned on him. "Back then, I didn't think I had anything worth saying, anything that could help. But I learned. Stories connect us." The honesty broke through barriers, mixing vulnerability with strength. He was no longer just a participant. He was a vessel for understanding. With every story shared, he began to see the girls, each one bearing their battles hidden under layers of bravado. The weight of their stories mirrored his own. As they expressed their fears and dreams through art and words, something profound flickered within Jake. What he found in that sharing was a community, not one bound by identity, but a visceral acknowledgement of shared struggles. It dawned on him. Those hidden qualities he had long dismissed had the potential to resonate with others. Art and expression were no longer just tools of therapy. They served as bridges, conduits through which stories flowed, anchoring both him and the girls to something greater. Yet, lurking beneath this burgeoning confidence was a mounting anxiety. What if, in the wake of this authenticity, the cracks in his facade became glaringly visible? What if he revealed too much and became vulnerable to ridicule? It was as if every emotional scar and fragile insight floated to the surface, challenging him to confront his deepest fears right there, in front of everyone. As the workshop progressed, Jake felt the intensity sharpen. Tanya's gaze would often meet his, a silent encouragement pushing him further out of his comfort zone. The urge to withdraw was overwhelming, but a new resolve ignited within him, a determination to embrace the discomfort for the sake of his own growth and for the girls who looked up to him. But there was a lingering shadow, unidentified and threatening. What walls did these girls still have to break through? And would he manage to hold the revealing pieces of himself together as he ventured deeper into these connections? The clock ticked down to the next segment of the workshop, where they delve into storytelling. Jake steeled himself, preparing for the profound yet daunting reckoning that awaited him. Little did he know, this phase would unearth more than just stories. It would force him to confront a truth buried deep within himself, one that could redefine everything he thought he knew about vulnerability, strength, and healing. The time had come to face the uncharted territory of both his life and theirs. Would he be prepared for the revelations that lay ahead? As the workshop broke into smaller groups, Jake found himself partnered with two girls, Maya and Lily, both of whom seemed captivated by the concept of storytelling. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity, contrasting sharply with Jake's internal struggle. He felt woefully inadequate as he sat across from them. They shared the innocence he had long left behind. Maya, the more spirited of the two, launched into a narrative about her family's summer vacations filled with moments of laughter and adventure. It was a story stitched together with joy and intimacy, emotions swirling around the room like petals caught in a gentle breeze. Jake listened, captivated by the ease with which she recounted her experiences. The tale danced through the air, drawing him into the warmth of her memories, bridging the stark chasm of his self-doubt. When it was his turn, his throat tightened. How could he relay a story that felt worthy amidst theirs? Instead of venturing into his past, Jake pivoted. He asked them about their favorite moments. Their answers flowed, revealing their dreams, aspirations, and the fears they dared not voice deeply. Still grappling with a suffocating silence, he enforced a facade of confidence, urging himself to share a sincere story about the one time he felt genuine joy. As he hesitated, visions of personal failures flickered in his mind. The duality of sharing a story while feeling still so broken raged within him. But as he began to speak, the room seemed to hush around him, time stretching in that pregnant moment of discovery. "I remember the first time I felt artistic," he said, surprise filtering through him as he spoke those words. "I was in high school and I took a painting class. It was strange at first, but somehow I discovered a part of me that enjoyed expression through colors. I didn't just paint to show, I painted to feel, to understand everything that was happening within me." Jake's voice steadied as he painted a picture of himself hunched over a canvas, brush in hand, spilling emotion on a blank surface. He saw a smile form on Maya's face while Lily listened intently, her wide brown eyes challenging him to dig deeper. Realization washed over him. Vulnerability could indeed be a source of strength. It wasn't about achieving some grand narrative. It was about connecting through life's moments, however small they may seem. Maya leaned closer, her eyes shimmering with understanding. "See? You have something to share," she pressed. "Your story matters too." Her words lifted a curtain on a truth he had stubbornly ignored. Every brushstroke he had made wasn't just about artistry. It was about his own healing, a means of confronting struggles that lay like shadows in the depths of his heart. The girl's energy buoyed him, each word they spoke resonating with untapped emotions inside him. It dawned on him, perhaps it wasn't merely his past that mattered, but his present willingness to connect and open the door for others. However, layers of doubt crept back, whispering chilling thoughts of inadequacy. What if he misled them into believing that he had it all together? What if these connections deepened only to expose his unpreparedness? As the sharing wound down and the next activity approached, Tanya moved to regroup everyone, her leadership radiating confidence. Jake felt that unwelcome knot of anxiety tightening again. It was as if he were unearthing more than just stories. It felt like he was excavating his identity, an exploration laden with the potential for both valor and devastation. As their mentor called upon everyone to prepare for their next storytelling challenge, an exercise asking them to embrace their vulnerabilities, Jake felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. What intimate truths were lurking beneath the surface, ready to drag him under? He needed to decide, to confront these unseen fears and hidden pieces of his soul. Was he ready to peel back the layers, risking utter exposure for the sake of deeper connection? Above all, the question lanced through his head. Was he prepared to embrace the essence of who he truly was, amidst all this uncertainty? Jake stood at the crossroads of his transformation, grappling with the enormity of the challenge before him. The workshop setting buzzed around him, with participants animatedly sharing their stories and lessons. But within him resided a profound uncertainty. Would he withstand the emotional unveiling, revealing not only himself, but also embracing the girl's vulnerabilities? As Tanya called the group back together, Jake's heart raced. Each beat was a reminder of the stakes that lay ahead, not just for himself, but for Bella and Emma, the twins relying on him. He gazed at the enkindled faces around the room, drawn into the tapestry of shared stories. The air felt electric, each beat illustrating the potential for connection, fragility, and deep understanding. "Let's explore vulnerability in our stories," Tanya announced, her voice resonating with clarity. "What do you fear the most? What do you wish to share but hesitate to voice?" It was as if those words were a clarion call for Jake, a challenge, a mandate to confront the fears he had long buried under layers of bravado and silence. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward the center, heart thrumming in his chest. "I've been fighting for a long time, to protect myself," he began, the vulnerability slicing through the noise in his mind. "But here, I find myself wanting to embrace the fear, to fight not for my own sake, but for Bella and Emma." Voices bubbled up from the group, and he felt their momentum bolster him. He shared his trepidation of stepping into the role of protector, the constant worry gnawing at him. What if he failed? With each word, The familiar chaos inside him began to dissipate. "I've learned that struggling doesn't make me weak," he continued, connecting the dots to what they had shared earlier. "If anything, it connects me to others, much like what we're doing here today. I want to be strong enough, not just for myself, but for them." As he spoke, a shift unfurled within him, the layers of uncertainty peeling away like old paint from a weathered surface. For the first time, he acknowledged his value, not just as a soldier, but as a human being capable of fostering resilience and strength in others. Vulnerability was no longer a weakness. It became a bridge uniting them. With their attentive faces focused on him, Jake felt a resolution blossoming, anchored in newfound clarity. He chose to embrace the emotional chaos like an artist wielding a brush, forming a path not yet traversed but rich with potential. The duality of heartache and healing had reshaped his understanding of strength. Jake stepped back, releasing the hard-fought burden of his past and dissolving into a collective embrace of support among peers. Warmth enveloped him, filling the gaps where doubt had once thrived. The girls, Maya and Lily, wore expressions of admiration, exuding the unspoken encouragement that he desperately needed. But with clarity came a weight of responsibility, one that demanded action beyond words. The idea of being a father figure to Bella and Emma transformed from a daunting prospect into a fierce commitment. He envisioned safe spaces crafted from understanding, art, and healing. Encouraged by their collective stories, Jake pulled together threads of inspiration to create a plan. He would construct activities focused on crafts, storytelling, and emotional engagement that merged creativity with therapeutic practice. The realization struck him hard. The very act of creating spaces of trust would shape not only Bella and Emma's futures, but his own reclamation of purpose. With renewed determination, he turned to Tanya. "I want to lead initiatives that help foster children," he proposed, his voice brimming with certainty. "Together, let's plan those workshops and activities to offer them the sense of safety and community I sought for myself." Tanya's eyes shone with excitement. "That's a brilliant idea. Let's do this. Build something solid." In that instant, everything shifted, intertwining the fates of Jake, Tanya, Bella, and Emma. He moved from uncertainty to leadership, grasping not only the reins of his journey but also embracing the strength of interdependence. Several weeks later, Jake found himself standing in a brightly decorated room filled with laughter and animated chatter. Colors leaped from walls adorned with the very creations the twins had produced, a celebration of their journey toward healing. He watched Bella and Emma engage in activities he had dreamed to provide, their smiles illuminating the room much like vibrant watercolor paintings. The success of the program transcended mere mechanics. It had become a haven. During the closing moments, Jake took to his small platform, heart swelling with gratitude. "Today we celebrate each of you and your bravery. You chose to share your stories, and in doing so, you build a brighter world for yourselves and others like you." Applause erupted, echoing his newfound belief in their collective strength. He felt complete, standing before them not as a former soldier bound by his past, but as a man who had redefined courage through community, transformation, and a commitment to love. The remnants of his previous struggles settled into their rightful place, a history carved into the tapestry of his heart, guiding him forward rather than holding him back. Each barrier was now a stepping stone toward growth, affirming his role as a protector. As the gathering concluded, Jake locked eyes with Bella and Emma, whose playful smiles enveloped him. He embraced the profound realization. He had transformed from an outsider battling invisible demons to a leader guiding others toward hope. In that clinching moment, life surged through his veins, illuminating not just his purpose, but the essence of all that he could become. It was a realization that transcended the ordinary. He was not just forging a path for children to heal, but healing himself in the process. With a bright future before him, Jake understood the magnitude of an invaluable truth. Every struggle shapes potential. Every vulnerability builds connection. And in each moment spent supporting Bella and Emma, he had unearthed the very pieces of redemption that transformed his life. The journey had only just begun, but he was ready for whatever lay ahead. The scared soldier was reborn, not into a world of battles, but into a life of love, connection, and unwavering strength. Remember, this is your moment to embrace transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your voice matters. Comment your reactions and theories about Jake's journey and the outcomes of his hard-earned growth. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't keep this inspiring journey to yourself. You need to support the channel and be a part of more freeing stories like this. Don't wait even one more second to share.